Hey, everybody. You just saw Mother of the Year walk by. Max, did you see that?
I
Sadie trying to
did.
get in the frame
She
right when we
deserves it.
started. Unbelievable. Come
She
on,
deserves it.
professional mother. Get it together. Welcome to another Regripped. I'm Shane Bacon. That's Max Homa. Max, I was talking a little about this before we got going. You need a haircut, dude. We're going to have to
Nope.
get that. This is curling up and under.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Is that the
It's a
new look?
good look. I don't know. It's my new look. You worry
Summer
about your
Max.
hair. I'm gonna worry about my hair.
Fair enough. We're going to do the 2005 U.S. Women's Open. We're going to start here in just a second. I wanted to get your initial, before we hit play and watch, just your thoughts on this golf course, because you played in the 2012 U.S. Amateur at Cherry Hills. You had a nice run. You ran into a guy that his career, unfortunately, has never really turned into much in Justin Thomas. But
Yeah.
what about the golf course is kind of championship worthy? What about Cherry Hills makes it such a tough test? Because that's what you keep hearing.
The vibe of it is just right when you walk on property, it's got that historic feeling. Stories about Arnold Palmer driving the first green with the persimmon wood, blotted ball. They've obviously had great championships. The actual golf course was in phenomenal shape. It's crazy firm. It gets so dry in Denver that you can bake out the golf course. The most difficult part, minus the layout, layout's kind of windy, pretty narrow, a little bit tricky here and there as far as even if certain fairways, especially the par fives, you need to make sure you leave it on the correct side of the fairway, so you either don't have a tree in your way or you just have a better angle, considering how firm the greens are. But the elevation is the most difficult part. It really demands control of your trajectory. If you get the ball too high, the ball is going to go farther than whatever percentage we were playing. Obviously, lower goes a little bit shorter. Curious what seeing who's in the lead coming into today. I don't think Birdie Kim hits it particularly high and far. However, Michelle Wee's in the mix, and I know that she bombs it. So it's always something that's a little bit difficult. It almost probably evens out the length thing that everyone's got going in golf. So makes everybody kind of come back to level playing field a little bit more. But it's a great golf course. Awesome finish. 17 is one of my favorite holes ever, and 18 is a very difficult driving hole with the uphill approach. So it's a cool golf course. Kind of has everything. Very interesting. A little bit unique, and firm is always better. So it is firm.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Michelle Wee, a teenager in the hunt here, trying to make history across all platforms in golf, not just women's. And then you get Morgan Pressel, who's actually going to be joining us here in a little bit to just talk about the week that was in this U.S. Open. You have Brittany Lang, also an amateur, that's in the hunt. And all of the storylines were chasing Annika Sorenstam, who at the time came in world number one and had won all these majors in a row and was having this unbelievable run into Cherry Hills. And it was a golf course, as you say, strategy plays into it. You've got to have an unbelievable caddy and elevation and all those things. So it's not just about going out there and playing. It's about, knowing your game as well as anybody out there. And so I think going into the week, at least what I read, was Annika was kind of the player that people just expected to walk away with this, and she didn't have a particularly great week at this Women's Open. So that's kind of the background on the golf course. Also, as you know, I'm a enormous logo nerd. One of the best logos in all of golf.
This is a good logo.
Great logo.
They also have unbelievable milkshakes at the golf course. Just unbelievable.
Really? Better than Muirfield? Better than Memorial? Equal to?
I'm not much of a connoisseur. I really like milkshakes. They're just good. So I can't. It's tough to split the hairs of milkshakes. But I'll leave it up.
Yeah, the Muirfield ones.
Be too contentious. I don't want anybody yelling at me. They're good.
This guy wins the PGA Tour, man, and now he's a milkshake guy. Now he always is talking about the milkshakes all the time. All right, I'm gonna hit play, and then when Morgan joins
over to
us,
18, this tee shot
we will
over the water.
Turn this down a little bit more. I'm going to turn Dan down. Sorry, Dan.
A lot of hauntings going through your head right here. I'll tell you that. Even
so this is wow. This is stuff right in the thick of it. So she's one back. Probably gonna. There's a very good shot at being the. She's gonna be a clubhouse leader.
Where she hit it in the water at Phoenix in the playoff.
I unfortunately remember this.
Big old hook that never had a chance.
It's one of the. It was awful.
Shots you could ever hit. I mean, she just chunk hooked it.
I hate to use the word choke, but that's what that was.
He doesn't hate it, guys. He doesn't
He
hate
says it a
saying
lot.
choke. He says it a lot.
So at the time, this 18th hole, 459 par 4 was the longest in women's open history.
Yeah, it's a tremendous hole. You know, you see her going with 3-wood. Obviously, elevation plays a huge part of that. 459, 10%, 45. So it's probably like 420-ish. At home, sea level, whatever. So you don't necessarily need to hit driver. It just depends how much you want to chew off that left side. The right side of the fairway, it's a great hole because the right side of the fairway kicks down and left. However, if you hang it up on that right, you have a ball way above your feet, uphill lie, uphill shot. So it's a good hole. It tests you to hit a draw down the left side.
Well, she's just got the Roberto Duran.
Morgan at this point in her career has won everything, like everything. The research I did was a joke. I knew she was unbelievable, coming in out of her amateur career, but my gosh, I mean, she made it look. She has wins in all the biggest, junior events, amateur events. I mean, she is obviously a tremendous golfer, but her amateur career is stellar.
Yeah, so she, I mean, I'll run you through it, and I'm sure we'll repeat a couple of these when she comes back on. As we watch Lorena again, you saw the U of A on the bag. Always got to be repping that. 12 years old, she qualified for a U.S. Women's Open, which is a record until Lexi did it a few months younger than Morgan was at the time. Obviously, she's 17 at this point. She won. She won the U.S. She was a quarterfinalist in the Women's Amateur in 04. She won the Women's Amateur in 05. Won the North-South. She was the Girls Rolex Junior Player of the Year. She's a high school senior. I mean, that's what's crazy. She's 17 years old right here, a high school senior. It's been 5 years since she qualified for her first U.S. Open. And how about that board? 3 A's on the first page of an open leaderboard.
I'm looking forward to asking her because I do feel like we see this a little bit more on the LPGA Tour in the women's game, where you have a lot more amateurs in the mix at the end. It always feels like it's a possibility to actually win the event, where we have people, or the men have had people like Xiangling Guan, who's 14, plays in the Masters, amazing, makes the cut, but never really in the mix. And the LPGA Tour, you have these people, some of these women, amateur women, winning, contending, like putting their name like in the mix. And I'm wondering what it is, or what her opinion would be of why that seems to be so much more prevalent.
Why you see it more in the women's side?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's a little split in like the distance, and it's not. Maybe as you get old, maybe on the men's side, when you get older, you put on a lot more muscle and speed. I'm not really sure. Maybe you're a little underdeveloped. I don't really understand. We just see it a lot more often though, and it's wild. I mean, Michelle Wie obviously was the most popular one, but when she was 13 years old, she was she was ready to be on the LPGA Tour. Obviously, Morgan seemed pretty much in the same boat. I don't know one thing about Birdie Kim, if I'm being honest.
I got a few things on her, and we'll get to it a little bit longer in. But just to kind of put a stamp on what you were talking about with the youth and all that, Sandra Post before today, because this was the storyline. I mean, going into this final round, everybody was writing about youth. Everybody was writing about all these amateurs. Is Michelle Wie going to win? Is Morgan going to win? Or is one of these teenagers going to pull this thing out? Sandra Post was the youngest major winner on the women's side of golf. She won the 1968 LPGA Championship at 20 years of age. All of this, by the way, is courtesy of our friend Justin Ray at the 15th Club, who sends us these very professional documents. Are you very impressed when you go through them?
I'm so impressed. It reminds me of what I wish like my college stuff would have looked like when I was organizing it.
Every time I look at it, I'm like, man, this would have been way more helpful.
Yeah, I could have easily studied off of this and not my scrabble, whatever it was. So this is what you'll see. 18. It's like she had to lay up from the right because it's just difficult to get the ball up and high enough out of that rough. Off the hanging lie, so that's what makes 18 so difficult and a great hole.
How easy shot is it from here going up that hill?
And we were just showing Morgan. We were talking about Morgan. Morgan's going to join us here in just a minute, and you can see this leaderboard. I mean, what's so crazy, Max, is what Lorena could have done.
Yeah, if she makes par, this is a tough number to have to look at for the rest of the day.
And you see, guys, we talk. I mean, we as broadcasters talk a lot about posting a number, and it always comes up every event, every major. It's who's going to post, what's the clubhouse lead going to be. We all know in the back of our heads it's not really going to matter. This was one of those events that it could have mattered. You know, if she
Well,
makes
when you see a plus in front of the numbers and you finish early with, even if it's a plus that, you know, you're 1 or 2 behind, we saw it last week at Wingfoot. I mean, the scores are going backwards. They're not going forward. So you need to get in the house and put some pressure on them. I think that her brain is scrambling.
We're going to welcome Morgan in, which I appreciate Morgan joining us. Morgan also, Max, a media personality. She was a part of our broadcast team last year at the US.
Yes,
Senior
the dog.
Women's Open.
Thank God. The first question was going to be about your dog.
I had to bring her in early because she might not stay too long, but.
No, what's up?
Awesome.
So I say hi.
The real star of the show itself, right there. What's up, Morgan? How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing good. We're just early into this. We're watching you as a teenager trying to win this, and we were going through before you came on. We were kind of rattling off some of your accomplishments at such a young age. So I feel like when you hear 17-year-old Morgan Pressel with a chance to win a U.S. Open, that seems insane. But I mean, you played at a U.S. Open at 12 years old. If you could take us back to 05 and just the mentality going into that final day, I think a lot of 17-year-olds are just going to be happy to be there. But I feel like your mentality was, I believe I'm capable of winning this thing.
Yeah, it was. I'd say it was probably one of the toughest setups I've ever played, and at this point, I think it was my 3rd U.S. Open. So I kind of had an idea for what Sunday of a U.S. Open might bring.
That's crazy.
And I know, it's crazy.
You're 17 years old and it's your 3rd one.
I know, and I mean, I did. I was in the final group. I played great all week. I putted probably the best I've ever putted in my career. I'll take some of whatever I did that week. I'll take some more of that. And, yeah, I don't. Oh my gosh, look at me. Oh, look, there's baby mommy. Look at that.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
what a spot.
I was 17 and I was confident. You could say cocky. You know, just I was there as a youngster, but didn't feel like that should hold me back from having the opportunity to win. So, putting myself in position on Sunday, I was confident. So.
Well, yeah, you'd won everything. I mean, you're like already used to winning more so than most people on the LPGA tour aren't winning 2-3 times a year like on any tour. So you're out there, you know, kicking butt in all the amateur events. So you're more used to winning than mostly anybody except probably Annika Sorenstam at this point.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, but I mean, for sure, you know, you become confident when you're winning, and I definitely won a lot of amateur tournaments in the last couple of years before I turned professional, especially in that last summer. And so there was that confidence. It's golf can beat you up sometimes because you're most of the time losing.
Yes.
So, I'm sure that probably had something to do with my attitude, and not to say that I'm less confident or things like that, but it was a little bit of a different mentality when you're 17 with nothing to lose.
You're like, it's like my friend and I talk about it all the time. It's like the type of delusion that you need to have to be great at something, but it's not a negative connotation. It's like you're naive to what winning is. It's just, of course I'm going to win. I win when I'm home. I win all the time. Like I'm just at the U.S. Open, but when you're younger in your head, when you haven't been beaten so many times, it just seems like, of course, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and I always say, like, you know, people say, did you love the game when you started? I said, kids like doing things that they're good at.
Yeah.
Doing things that they see success and over. And, you know, I think that was definitely something that drew me to the game early. And then, you know, a lot of hard work to eventually make it on tour and things like that, but make a career out of it. But yeah, it was, that was definitely a time where I won a lot of AJJ events, the North and South, the Women's Am, maybe a month after the Open here. So that was a successful summer.
Morgan, I wanted to ask, you know, we're talking about all of your accomplishments. So you're this superstar in the making, if you will. You're playing in a U.S. Women's Open. You've got a chance to win this thing, and you're 17. I mean, all the things we've already mentioned. You've won stuff. I mean, you've won throughout your life at every age, kind of every check mark. And all of a sudden, this 15-year-old is tied for the lead as well, 2 years younger than you, and went a completely different path. Michelle is a youngster, burst on the scene, steals all the headlines, but her path was, I'm jumping right to professional golf and I'm not checking the boxes. I was reading some stuff back in 05 about this, and it felt as though 17-year-old Morgan Pressel was kind of taking it personally, like, I want to beat her. I want to be this kind of teenage phenom, if you will. And it was really a competition internally with you that you weren't going to let the 15-year-old show you up.
I don't know if it was such an internal competition in that fashion. I mean, I wanted to beat pretty much everybody on that leaderboard. But, Michelle and I didn't play a lot of golf, even though we're only a couple years apart. But growing up in amateur golf, like you said, she went definitely a different path. We didn't play much together until we were both on tour together. But, I mean, obviously we were all tied for the lead going in. I believe we were.
Yeah,
right?
3 tied for the lead, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, she was definitely and still is a force to be reckoned with. So I knew that it wasn't going to be easy and had to get out there, and especially under these conditions. I mean, when was the last time you saw 3 over win at US Open? I mean, the conditions were brutal out there. The greens were so fast. If you missed the fairway, it was a chip out. Like you were taking a wedge. There was no question. And I would say that's different than a lot of the way they play a lot of US Open courses these days. That's probably a little bit more traditional, old school. Obviously, Cherry Hill's such an incredible venue and test of golf. I like that golf swing. That looked good.
Yeah, it does look good.
Who was caddying? Oh.
Sammy was caddying for me. She caddied for me in a few amateur events here, then the women's am later on that year, and then a little bit into my rookie year as well.
Morgan, we were just watching Lorena Ochoa finish up the 18th hole. She was 3 over, 1 back of the lead going into it. You guys hadn't even made it to the 9th tee yet. How would it change the dynamic of the final round of the tournament had she posted 3 over and not? I'm not sure what she makes, but it's not par.
I think it was a snowman, but I'm not positive.
Yeah.
But I mean, I actually remember because I'm a leaderboard watcher, and I remember I think it was the 11th green when I must have said to Sammy, "Whoa, what happened to Lorena? Like she's all the way on the bottom of the leaderboard now," because those were the volunteer run leaderboards, not the running.
Right. Like shot linky
most
kind.
Events, a little more old school, and Lorena was in the lead, and then all of a sudden I kind of wasn't paying attention, but then once I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, like what just happened? And it wasn't until I finished that I realized what did happen, but I remember noticing that probably on about the 11th green, I believe it was.
Yeah, because that's where we're mentioning, like when the scores, the golf course is hard when the scores are going more to the over par side than the under par side. You post something, even if you're 1-2 back, but you post it early, it gives the leaders a lot to look at, considering you almost feel like you have to hold on for dear life at times, since there's not a lot of birdies to be made on the golf course, as opposed to if the course is playing easier, you post 12 under, but the lead's already at 12. You kind of know that they're going to move on to 13, 14 under with 9 holes to play. This US Open makes a completely different dynamic to me.
Yeah, just a grinder's course. I mean, that every shot, and not that every shot isn't so important, but that you're not going to have that many opportunities to make it up. So you really have to grind. And I think that's part of the reason why I played so well, especially this week, is that just suits my game to a T. Even still, don't always have your A game, but grind it out as best as you can.
That's awesome. Morgan, I mentioned this to you when I got to finally meet you this past year, and Shane has not heard the story yet, but both of our grandmothers lived in the same community for a long time, and Morgan's coming up, I'm coming up. We're similar in age, and my grandma is telling my mom how she was bragging about my golf or something. I don't know what grandmas do. Shout out to Mother's Day. And she was saying that this other woman was bragging about her granddaughter, and they were going back and forth. And she said that her granddaughter was Morgan Pressel. And I say, Grandma, you gotta watch your mouth. Like, she's pretty damn good. I don't really want to get into this tussle.
Oh, there's
But
nothing
that was
like
always a
grandmas
weird,
bragging
weird
about their
thing.
kid, their grandkids.
Yeah, I loved
right?
it. I could just see my grandma getting all mad.
I think she'd be pretty proud. I think
Yeah, I
it's
think we're doing all right.
I think it's okay.
Max, you had a question about youth and just how
Yes.
and how competitive young players seem to be more often on the women's side.
Yeah, Morgan, I just noticed the men's side, the PGA Tour, will get some amateurs playing great here and there, but very, very, very rarely do they make any kind of noise on the weekend. Let alone, you're in the final group. Michelle's back there, Brittany Lang is back there. We have a lot of amateurs just like in the biggest tournament of the year, kind of poking their head. I was wondering if you had seen, or if you would have an opinion on why that seems to happen more on the LPGA Tour. If you guys are just women are considerably smarter than men, so you guys figure it out much quicker than we do, or something. But I was just curious.
Yeah, I just think in general, women, young ladies tend to mature faster than men. And, I think every US Open has a story of a college kid, a young man who breaks through and has a great showing and is a great story. And I feel like we have that on the women's tour as well, just maybe in a little bit of a younger fashion. It's more the teenager side than the college student. And I don't know. We've had so many breakthrough young stars. Look at Lydia Ko, Michelle Wie, as we mentioned, Lexi Thompson, who had incredible success at really, really young ages. And you definitely don't see that in the men's game. And I do think that's just in how women and women's bodies mature differently than men. And I think you see the same in women's tennis versus men's tennis and things like that.
Gotcha. I know the brains mature differently because I have taken a while to
same
to fully develop up here. I am behind.
No
it's slowly coming. Morgan, last thing, and we'll let you go. And I know you get asked about this a lot when 05 comes up. Your reaction in the fairway, we're an hour and a half away from it. You're 17 years old, for goodness sakes. Your reaction is like as natural a moment that's ever happened in golf history, I think, because so many times I think people want to react like, oh my goodness, that just happened, and you did. When you look back on the hole out ahead of you, that mental transition and what you had to have gone through in 5 or 6 seconds had to have been as tumultuous as anything you've ever experienced.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's probably the amateur reaction versus a professional's reaction. But I've always been a player who kind of wore my heart and my emotions on my sleeve. And there's no greater emotion than that happening in front of you when, honestly, I had hit a perfect drive down the fairway and thought I was in an incredible position to win, especially seeing her in the bunker. And it went in. What are you going to do? There's
Can't
nothing
do anything about it.
I could do but try and make birdie. And, I came up short. It didn't happen, but it was an incredible moment, incredible stepping stone in my career to be in that position, just even to have those emotions, to have that opportunity. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. And it, I think, helped me out definitely, especially maybe how to react a little bit better too.
Listen,
I loved it.
I loved it
But
too.
I get people comment a lot about that to me. Say, "Oh, you're."
I don't get why you can't react however you would want to react. That's just how you feel in the moment. That's what people want to see, and that's like the true, like Shane was saying, the truest form of it. It's would never be able to see what could possibly be wrong with that reaction. It's just frustrating. I'm bummed out. It happened.
Yeah, it was crushing it, and I had to flip it quick. It was like that moment was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And then, okay, make birdie. Like I had to flip that in my head pretty quickly. And that was then all I focused on because I had nothing to lose. I wanted to win the tournament. That was what I was there to do. And
would you say of all the things, obviously you've gotten to be a much better player physically and I'm sure mentally and all these things, but do you think like the one thing you would take away, because I think about this for myself when I was young, the confidence, the brashness, and just the nothing to lose attitude. Do you ever look back on that from this week and think, maybe I could harness some of that? Because like we were mentioning earlier, as you get older, we start to see how, I think we start to see how much harder it is than we actually realize. Do you ever kind of look back at this week and realize and kind of think on that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, and even what we were talking about earlier, winning at a lot that summer over that time, that confidence that winning is it kind of what's the term that I'm looking for? It promotes more winning. It encourages more winning. It's in that confidence side, but definitely. I've definitely thought about the swagger that I had as a younger player and how to really be able to harness that most of the time out on tour.
Yeah,
Morgan, I don't picture you as much of a sports gambler. I know Max and I will wager a couple of bucks here and there with each other. I would love to have known what your odds were to win the women's amateur after what you did here. I would imagine they were pretty high. They were like Tiger level when you got to that 05 women's amateur. I would have liked to have had a couple of bucks.
I couldn't
on you.
imagine being more intimidated of that. That would have been frightening. As the person playing you in the finals, knowing that you very well could have won the U.S. Open a month earlier, I'd have called my mom and said, "Do I have to do this? Can I just take a second? I'd like to pass."
That's pretty funny.
Well, thanks, Morgan. Hey, and thanks for bringing Zoe.
Thank you, Morgan.
I was hoping Zoe would make an appearance.
Oh, say hi. Say thanks for having us.
Of course. We're gonna hunker down and watch.
All right, enjoy.
Thank you.
I won't tell you what happened. I won't give you a spoiler.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate that.
Bye.
Bye.
Straight in, Gary.
That was great, Max. As I'm trying to watch the golf, while we're chatting, and all I can see is, I don't know if were you watching much of it, Max, when we were doing that?
Yeah, I haven't seen a putt go in yet.
It's all defensive golf, and this bunker shot she hit was unreal.
Yeah.
Stay in the lead by one.
That's a misread because
I think these greens are Poana. I don't remember them being crazy smooth. Shout out for my teammate Michael Weaver. Unfortunately lost in a playoff here and hit the only spike mark on the entire green, considering there was only two people, and it was probably the worst break in the history of USA Amateur golf. But I mean, yeah, it seems. I remember the greens breaking funky. There's a few that break towards the back, which is always rare.
What's gonna happen?
I just don't remember holing putts to be particularly easy. Right. And obviously we've seen how firm the greens are, so. Everybody seems to be, swinging well, this is why I love watching the LPGA Tour. The golf swings are so nice. It's rhythmical. Their seems a lot easier than all of us make it out on the PGA Tour.
So Max, we've got Morgan Pressel, 17, right? Tied for the lead. We've got Michelle Wee, 15 years old, tied for the lead. And the veteran Paula Creamer is 18 at the time.
Yeah.
Are one shot off the lead.
Shane, how was your golf game at 12? What were you doing at 12?
I honestly
15 or at whatever 17. I know. I mean, if Morgan qualified when she was 12. She's almost winning it at 17. Michelle's in the second to last group at 15. So in that little time frame, where was your golf game at?
I could break 80 if I played well. And this is at 15, not definitely not 12.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you, professional golfer, where was your game?
I mean, it was 17. I was struggling to figure out what channel the U.S. Open was on, let alone how to qualify for the dang thing. I didn't even. There's no way my parents would have given me $100 to do the qualifier, knowing full well it was just going straight into the USGA's pocket without any chance of me playing in their event.
So I mentioned Annika Sorenstam with how well she played. 7 of the previous 18 majors she had won coming into this week.
Yeah, I mean, she obviously phenomenal. One of the greatest ever, greatest players ever. So fun to watch her swing a golf club. My buddy Casey still, I think I mentioned this, still works for her and says that she could take months off, go drop some balls down, and it looks like she could very well tee it up in an event right then and there.
And of course, ultimately the 4 for 4.
I just remembered I have a wild story from this tournament.
Right there,
This one particularly?
Well, no, sorry. When I played the USGA there.
Did you listen to Lorena?
Yeah.
Let's listen to Lorena because she just made quad.
I think just probably the club selection. I hit a 3-wood and was under a lot of pressure, and I'm just trying to make an easy swing. And I get too quick with my hands and make a hook to the water.
You'd been hitting your 3-wood really well and your driver all day. Did you just get a little ahead of yourself, maybe?
Well, I think it was downwind. The fairways are getting harder, and yesterday we hit a 3-wood and was really close to go down to the water. And just like you said, I was hitting it good, so we didn't hesitate. Just grab the 3-wood and trying to make a good swing. But at the same time, I knew I needed to hit an easy one. If there would be too much going downwind, just make an easy swing, and my hands got me.
Johnny Miller said if you could par 18, you'd have a 75% chance, he felt, of your winning the championship. How devastating is this for you?
Well, I think it's hard to realize right now. I just give it away. The tournament, I fought so hard for 71 holes, and just the last one. I have nothing to say. I feel really sad, and it's the way golf is.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. You're a champ.
Thank you.
Dan?
So, Max, this I know it's not the same level of trying to win a major, but the scoring average on Sunday, okay? The scoring average at Cherry Hills on this Sunday was 76.1. That is the second highest scoring average in a final round of a women's open since 1992. And at the time, it was the highest. Then 08 came in and just barely nipped it. And you played this year, you played at Bay Hill in just brutal conditions. It was Saturday, right? Third round.
Yeah.
And you play this unreal round of golf. Nobody's under par. You're 4 under going at 18. You made double on 18. I mean, you don't make quad. It's not the last hole of an open. But you have been able to figure out a golf course that nobody else has figured out all day long, and you're playing with the best in the world. How do you walk away from a day you played 17 unreal golf holes? You don't finish it off like, you did something kind of similar at Bay Hill. How do you walk away and still find positives there, considering you still had low round of the day and Lorena still shot 72?
Yeah, I mean, different in the sense that if she pars 18, she wins the golf tournament.
Right.
Mine, I was the second group off that day, so it was less circumstantial, more like I was going to walk away if I made a 10 on the last hole. No, my game was pretty darn good. Mine was also a little bit different, just considering I 3-putt from like 4 feet. It's more like not controlling. I don't know. I didn't feel like I was nervous. It's just hard. It's hard to compare the two because mine was just like a random double, and hers, she's making it sound like it was a little bit more of the pressure, trying to hit it easy, kind of a bit of indecision. We didn't have much of that. It was just a double on a hard golf course. Lorena obviously played amazing, but she has such a good career. I don't know how someone like that would walk away from it. Obviously, she knows she's better than mostly everybody. She knows that she's going to be one of the best players in the world going forward. It's just more, I think it's more devastating and tough to swallow just for that moment. You don't get a lot of chances to win majors. There's only a few a year. So it hurts to lose in that fashion, but just knowing that you're not going to have a ton of other chances at a U.S. Open, considering there's one a year, and I mean, she didn't only played for a few more years, so it's a weird spot. But yeah, it's not like she's leaving this tournament thinking, yeah, well, at least I know my game's in a good spot. She already knows her game is awesome.
You said you had a story. Before she talked.
So first off, happy birthday to my mom. It's her birthday today. And the story is about my mom. My mom, for people who don't know her, which most of you probably do not, she is the queen of very embarrassing stories, leaving stuff on the top of her car. She once left her checkbook on her car and then drove off, and it just flew out in the middle of the street. She does that kind of stuff all the time. So fast forward to the USAM. I'm playing. I'm about to warm up, and I think Jack Nicklaus's grandson or nephew was playing in the same tournament, and I had I think match play coming up, and no, it was stroke play, second round stroke play. So I saw Jack Nicklaus standing over by the 18th hole watching his son come up. And I told my mom, I said, hey, I need to go, but why don't I'm trying to go get a picture of Jack Nicklaus? I know he's surrounded or whatever. But that would be pretty cool. I mean, when are we ever going to see, Jack Nicklaus again? So I hit balls. I'm walking back over to the tee, and I see her. And I said, how'd it go? And she's just got like, she's blushing. She just looks kind of embarrassed. And she goes, I made a mistake. And I said, well, what could have possibly gone wrong? You were just supposed to like kind of reach your hand above the crowd and click a picture. Well, she said that she walked over to do that, and for whatever reason, the crowd kind of parted. And next thing she knows, she's face to face with Jack Nicklaus. She's got her camera out, and Jack looks at her, being the kind man that he is, and says, hi, how you doing? And my mom, not expecting to be in this situation, has her camera out, takes a picture of his face, and then just leaves. I hope I get to meet Jack Nicklaus someday, because I want to tell him that, because I'm sure he gets it a lot, but it cracked me up. Because I'm like, what an awkward way to take a picture.
Your mom had one moment working for TMZ, and that was it.
Yeah, she did. She had a chance, man. She had a chance to talk to, one of the greatest golfers of all time, and she got a very close-up photo. So, not the same.
Watching right now and seeing that shot Morgan just hit, it was a great point I thought she made about the setup now versus what we're seeing a little bit more with modern U.S. Opens. Is it seemed as though on some of these historic golf courses like a Cherry Hills, the setup was runways, but the rough was always this just brutal rough. I mean, that pitch shot, the ball looked like it didn't look like it was sitting down. Yeah. And still, it's so thick, it's hard to get it up in the air.
Thick is thick. I think that for whatever reason, a lot of the people that set up the golf tournaments who go to an older school golf course, means it's normally shorter. They grow the rough way up to defend against the length. However, for some reason, when they go, and I don't know the ins and outs of this, when they go to a longer golf course, it seems like because you're going to be having longer clubs in, they don't want to completely diminish their chances of getting to the green in two. However, everyone's still getting to the green in two, where on this shorter golf course, you're not. So I understand that they see more drivers, so they want to put don't want to penalize too much for missed fairways. However, I think that, that's to me, that's the U.S. Open. That's how it should be. I know they had the really thick stuff at Erin Hills. They ended up not getting any wind, and the fairways are quite big, so that's what changed that. But it would be what a save. She didn't lie. She was putting it. Unbelievable. But yeah, so I'm wondering if that has something to do with it, because when you go to when I played Marion, thickest rough you could ever imagine, this thickest rough you could imagine. But you see, Chambers Bay didn't have thick rough, had humongous fairways and bunkers, but the rough, even the fescue, I wouldn't say it was thick. It was just the lies that you would get being below and above your feet made it mostly difficult. So I wonder if that is something taken into account, the length of the golf course and then the rough height based off of that.
Hey Max, you have a great chance here following your comments to plug next week's Regripped.
You don't ever tell me where they are, so
it's Marion.
It's the Marion one. So
hey, let's do a natural now. Now do a natural.
All right, natural. Well, I'm gonna wait for. Oh, I thought she was gonna tap in. This is getting less and less natural. I'll go natural. So next week, guys, on Saturday at 3 p.m. EDT, we will be doing another one of these Regripped from the 2013 U.S. Open at Marion, where you can watch me. Well, you can't, because we only watch Sunday. I played Thursday and Friday, not to brag. Did not play Sunday, but we'll talk about it, I'm sure, because I have to. I played one U.S. Open. I'll talk about it.
You know who probably doesn't watch Regripped? I just realized.
Phil Mickelson.
I don't think Phil's going to be a big fan.
I don't think he loves it.
Doesn't love it.
I don't think he loves it.
By the way, thank you, media personality Max. So the Regripped is brought to you by our friends at the USGA. So thank you to the USGA. Appreciate your help with this. There's more than 250 hours. 250 hours. That is couch time on steroids of on-demand.
How many minutes is that, Shane?
What's that?
How many minutes is that?
250 times 60. I can't do it that fast. Can you do it that fast?
No.
I was so bad at math. I was awful.
But it's 150,000. 1,500? 150,000.
You have to add it up. I'm trying to do this sponsored read. I even printed them out.
All right, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, hold on. 250 hours. That's like 1 million minutes of on-demand programming.
15,000.
15,000 minutes of on-demand programming. If you download the USGA streaming app in partnership with Cisco, the USGA app's free and it's available on Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV. Those are the places. And you can watch 15,000 minutes of on-demand championship programming. How many seconds? We don't know.
Please, my calculator is already tired.
And also,
here's my take on. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to plug Cisco real quick. Now more than ever, we're seeing that staying connected to people like we're doing right now is massively important because we don't see a lot of humans. So you got to stay connected, and this helps, and your computer helps, and your iPad helps, whatever you got. People are looking for new ways to do that, and technology's never been more relevant and important to our lives. Cisco WebEx helps that. It facilitates that and makes conversations around the world easier and on time. Make sure you download anything and everything with Cisco. We thank you guys for helping us out. It is awesome. You can follow Cisco at WebEx. You can follow USGA at the USGA. You can follow Max Homa, the Math Whiz, on Twitter as well.
So here's my take on this so far. I don't know much about Birdie Kim. I know what happens at this event, but I don't know much about her. I don't know if she was, I know it's her third major appearance ever, so I don't think that she was incredibly established at the time. Obviously still great, but not like she was a Paula Creamer or obviously a Lorraine Ochoa. But she doesn't walk around incredibly confidently. Like you can see that with how Morgan walks, and Morgan's only 17 years old, but she looks like she has a purpose. She kind of feels like she's the top dog. You see it in her walk. So with most of these people, Birdie might be the least assuming person on this board. Her game is obviously great, but just the way she doesn't have a strut, I guess is the point. She doesn't have a saunter. She looks very much like I don't know. She looks less comfortable than everyone else, but maybe that's why she's comfortable, because she's not trying to, I don't know, change her walk. I'm not really sure, but she doesn't seem very intimidating. Her name's Birdie. She seems that's all of our favorite things. I want to be friends with a Birdie.
So I'll give you some Birdie. You're doing a great job, by the way. So you're kind of hosting, and I love it. Let me.
I don't know what I'm doing, man.
Since you led me there, you know what? Listen, I'm here to help. I'm here to beautify your points here. Okay. So Max, let me tell you some Birdie Kim stuff since you brought that up. That's a great shot. The year before, so 2004 was a rookie year. She missed 17 of 20 cuts.
Been there.
Her rookie year. She made $9,897 on the LPGA Tour as a rookie. So get this. So most people, you think of Justin Rose's start to his professional career when he missed all those cuts in a row. From the Alan Shipnuck piece on SI about the win, Birdie Kim said to her caddy, Miles Nixon, who began caddying for her this season, she said, this is a quote, one of the first things she said to me was, every great player has one bad year, and I've already gotten my bad year out of the way, is what she said.
She should write a mental book, because that's the thing. I think Bob Rotella says it, but great shot. The greens are firm if Michelle can't spin the ball, because she is one of the highest spin players on the LPGA Tour. But Bob Rotella says that, if a 50% shooter in basketball misses a shot, if he has the correct outlook, considers every next shot to have a better probability of going in than the last one, because he keeps missing. And then once he does make a few in a row, he just thinks that that's going to be the outlier. So that's kind of Birdie's look at it. I already got it out of the way. It's a perfect mental attitude. Again, going back to what Morgan, yourself and I were talking about, I think a little bit of delusion, a little bit of being naive is the reason people are professional athletes. You have to be a little bit insane to think that foreshadowing bunker shot, hope to show it. But you have to be a little bit insane to say what she said, but that's exactly what you're supposed to say. What are you? Any other thought would be negative, So yeah, make it as positive as possible be. It doesn't hurt to say that. I mean, it sounds nuts. I didn't even say that. I'm crazy.
Maybe you needed to adopt this, man.
I just thought I stunk. I remember the last time that Annika Sorenstam was 11 over going into this tournament. like ever, like it even in like a stretch of years. Man, she has the coolest sponsors. Anytime you have a Mercedes-Benz sponsorship, you know you're cool. I don't feel like they sponsor just like the random person.
This is a list. This is a pretty good list.
Yeah. The Mickey Wright stuff, I wish I knew more about.
Just a world beater, man.
Yeah.
Just crush people.
Unbelievable.
Bobby certainly likes it.
Yeah, so obviously they showed that because in 05, Annika won the Kraft Nabisco and then the LPGA Championship coming into the women's British. She had a 7-year run. She missed one cut in a major and had 2 finishes outside the top 30. So pretty good if you can do it. How about Paige McKenzie?
I know.
Paige.
Man, I really like this golf course. I like watching when it's bouncing all over the place.
You know what this golf course I feel like was like for this US Open is, you know how I'm sure, you know, like a USGA or PGA of America or whoever's hosting the event that week or the championship week, RNA for an Open, they probably have like a best case scenario for conditions, right? Wind, rain, firmness, you know, and then this is stuff that has to happen weeks and months before, right? Because you've got to have, if you want the rough really lush, you've got to have a lot of rain headed in the spring. I feel like they got their best perfect case scenario for this golf course to play like a U.S. Open golf course for the week. You know, all of it, greens are firm, rough is thick. You know, you're noticing some hole locations. I don't feel like there've been a lot in the front of greens because I'm assuming it's impossible to get it anywhere close to these front hole locations, right?
Yeah, there's one, and it's on 18, and it plays uphill. So that's how demanding and how difficult that birdie was going to be that Morgan was talking about. Obviously, it's hard to stop any of them sort of to a front pin, but when it's all the way up the hill, the ball's coming in even at a less of a descending angle. The finish of this golf course is cool. Like I said, 17's a great par 5. We saw Annika try to go for it, hit in the water. It's basically an island green. And then 18, we obviously seen that's just a hard hole. 17 has a possibility of a birdie and bogey or worse. So that's why I think most championship golf courses have such a cool finish. When we do Marion next week, it's really hard. Like 17, 18 have a lot of volatility because birdies are rare. Like they just don't really happen on 17 and 18 for the most part. So coming down the stretch, 2 pars can be great. A birdie can feel like an eagle. And then a golf course like this, where there's a big jump to be made on 17, while 18, again, birdie would go an incredibly long way, maybe even to a championship. I'm not really even sure. I shouldn't spoil the ending. But, that's what's cool about it. When you have a really hard 16, 17, 18, or a mix of the two. But having that mix on this golf course, 17 being pretty easy, or at least volatile, and 18 being really hard is cool. It has a lot can change, a lot can go on.
How many times do you think Annika Sorenstam won in 05? What would be your
I'm
guess?
going to say 8 times, Shane.
Close. Good guess. Good guess. 9. 9 victories in 2005. 9 times.
Young Joe. That sounds like a rap name. I like that name.
Really, the last 05 was kind of her last insane year. I mean, she wins 9 times in 05. She wins 3 times in 06, 3 times in 08. And 08 was her final victory on the
I wonder
number
if
70.
you feel like a down year if after you win 9, if you like only win 3. Like that'd be cool.
How was your year? I won 3 times in a major. She won the U.S. Women's Open too that year.
So pretty good, I guess. Not bad. How much these things?
By the way, shout out to the area. There are 1,000 people on every hole.
Yeah. It was cool. I remember the USAM was cool too. I had a ton of people. Just a great sports area. Plus the golf course. I think everybody would want to see this golf
Birdie
course.
Kim at +2.
And wind helping and from the players right.
So you played Justin Thomas in what round of the amateur? Do you remember?
Round of 32, so second round. I played
And so-
Corey Connors in the first round, and then had Justin. And if I beat Justin, I think when I was playing Bobby Wyatt or Michael Weaver, I can't remember.
So at the time, you were how old? Or what year were you in college?
2012. I was about to go into my senior year.
So you were like the stud, Max Homa, going to senior year, very well established. Where was JT in that world?
JT had just won Player of the Year. I was no stud. JT had just won Player of the Year his freshman year of college. I played him in the match play of the national championship second round semifinals. Me and JT went out first, and I beat him. And then we get paired together to play against each other in this thing, like not very long after, and he beat me. And I always wanted like a third shot at him because I felt like we needed to have a rubber match, see who was the ultimate champion. All his majors or whatever, they have not proven to me yet that he would have beaten me in this third one. So, but yeah, he was very well established. I think everyone knew who he's going to be. The funniest part about all of it is Greller, Michael Greller, who caddies for Jordan Spieth now, was caddying for JT. Obviously, nobody knew. It's like Greller was still teaching, I think, third grade. It wasn't like he was the stud caddy yet, but he was about to go on to be. My friend was caddying for me, just kind of the funny things that changed up. But yeah, I wasn't very well established. I was a good player on a decent team. Hadn't really won in college yet.
Okay.
Obviously, a little older, had some good success, and I beat Justin, so that helps. At least put some doubt in his mind. But I remember on the 16th hole, he made about a 20-footer, and I had 15 feet on the exact same line as him. So I stood in to try to read his putt, go back on mark. And he does make the course and does this running tiger fist pump and basically nearly fist pumps on my face. I hated him so much after this round. I think I went for 17 and 2 hit in the water, and he beat me on 17. But man,
So you didn't like it. You didn't like the fist pump.
I didn't like anything about him for the first 2 times I played, and I realized later on the reason I didn't is because he was a lot like me, and he was this punk little kid, and I was just jealous how good he was. But yeah, when he fist pumped in my face, I thought I was gonna. He was small back then. I thought I could just kind of carry him to the next tee and just like flip him down. But yeah, he obviously is an unbelievable golfer, a good friend now, and it was fun. It's fun having that memory. But that kid can play, and you can see it back then. All 108 pounds of him were flashing on that golf ball, doing whatever he wanted to do.
When he was in college, and I mean, this isn't a Justin Thomas rewatch, but when he was in college and he was small. I mean, he was slight. He wasn't a big dude. Did he still hit it a mile? Could he still get it out there?
Yeah, he hit it far. I mean, I wouldn't say a mile, but he always launched it. So he launched it pretty high, but it wasn't a mile. You didn't know Justin for his length. He hit it far, but you knew Justin. Like everyone would talk about his great iron play, but the craziest thing, the reason I knew he was going to be very good, is because that was the first time I played him at Riviera at the match play. And everyone had been telling me how good his irons were. And I went out, and in the first 4 holes, I was like, this kid might have the best short game I've seen from anybody in college. And that's usually a pretty good sign of things to come when you're known for one thing and I'm enamored by something like else.
Gotcha.
So the length was good. I know that once he turned pro, he did find, or maybe back into college, he found a lot of stuff in optimizing, the launch, the spin, and all that. And that added quite a bit of distance, because people don't know Justin's swing speed and stuff is not incredibly high, but he hits it out of the middle of the face a lot, and he optimizes it with his trajectory. So that's kind of where he gets so much power. I know he's gotten a lot bigger now, but when he was younger, he was pretty skinny. That's a great hole, by the way. This is one I don't know how you could put a pin on the front of the green. You would have to land it almost in the rough, right by the water. This presents like an opportunity to hit one close, because if you land it right there and it stops at all, yeah, it's just tough.
That was too much club, wasn't it, Garrett?
Yeah, I think so.
But here, so that's what I don't like. Johnny's saying that's too much club, but a 6-iron lands 8-10 yards shorter than that, and it's covering the water by a yard. Like, are you going to put yourself in that spot? I mean, it looks like it's a little downwind. It's just going to be hard to stop. That ball didn't go over the green, necessarily because it didn't land in a good spot. It probably wasn't a little high enough at that point, or it wasn't the exact right club for the shot. But you can't just all of a sudden force a 6-iron in there and need to land it in a 2x2 area where one of the penalties is water.
Right, mishit it a skosh and you make 5.
Yeah. This is 7-iron after 5, so obviously she must hit it quite a long ways. This is an advantage of length, but this is also possibly an advantage of height, because if the ball gets up in the air at altitude, you can carry a 7-iron 15 yards, 20 yards, 10 yards further than a normal trajectory one that you would have at home, where you could just add so much length.
And that was close to being good, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, it really was. It looks like it's going to kick over the left there. Morgan left it in a perfect spot, so I mean, it's not like a great shot, but it's not like she got completely penalized for missing the green. She hit a great shot. It just goes over the back of the green. Kind of going to be a tough shot. Would obviously not have a birdie putt, but still, quality shot leaves a pretty easy up and down, all things considered. Wonder what commercial's playing.
I mean, we're not getting the sports promos. We're getting the sports promos, but we're not getting the players. What's that?
Who was hot in 05?
Just 20 feet over the water.
Ooh. How good was that?
That was that like is a yard from being wet. Like
right.
You're really that's why it's this hole to me I love so much with this golf course circle. You have to really press the issue if you want to make birdies.
So, we're butting up on Sorenstam, and Justin Ray sent a message. Sorenstam was 291 under par in her previous 26 LPGA tournaments before this U.S. Women's Open.
So that's 0 minus 291. She's not 291 under par. That's ridiculous.
So we'll see if she can make that great stroke she did on the last hole on the short one, Gary. It was just perfect tempo.
Second round, the only round where she struggled at all on the greens, we saw her pull a couple of short putts down.
You don't see the Seymour putter very much anymore.
Almost went away. I mean, if it was the company apparently was going to go out of business before Zach won the Masters, and I guess
that's a good thing to happen.
What's that?
That's a good thing to have happen.
It helps the situation. But yeah, I guess when they were going to go out of business and then ZJ won the Masters, and they had 1,000 orders on Monday for putters after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a little better than we saw back there at the 10th.
See, I mean, you're right. It's not where she wanted to leave it, but it leaves her a chance to make par, right?
It's just like there's a lot of debate in golf architecture and golf setup these days. I will listen.
Is in the books. You came up a little short on your bid to get that 3rd Grand Slam, but what has this whole experience, this whole week been like for you?
Well, I've actually had a good time. Obviously, I'm very disappointed about my results and kind of the way it ended, but the crowd has been spectacular this week. I mean, I thought the golf course was a lot of fun to play. It's a great challenge, so put my golf aside, it's been a great week.
Well, you struggled a bit today. We're seeing a lot of the leaders struggling. Why is this golf course playing so tough today?
Well, me personally, I mean, my game plan was to be a little bit more aggressive. I started with hitting a few more drivers and then just put me in a lot of trouble, and after that I just couldn't recover, so it's just a hard day for me.
Is there anything that you would have done differently at the beginning of the week or even last week as you prepared for this week?
At the moment, not really. I thought I came into this week as prepared as I could be. I thought I was as focused as I could be. I felt really good about this week. It's just one of those weeks. I did not feel the momentum. I didn't have any flow. Hit a few bad shots and then just could never recover. And I definitely didn't make enough birdies to have a chance.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Dan, back up to you.
So I was reading, Max, that her mentality going in, she said that on Sunday, Sorenstam said, I want to shoot 2 under. I think if I shoot 2 under, I'll have a chance. And she pulled driver on the first hole. You talked about Arnold Palmer, famous first hole, try to drive the green. And she hooked it in the rough and was in a terrible spot, had a terrible lie. And that was what she was trying to do, was kind of, put the foot on the gas. And sometimes, I mean, I know you know this, obviously, but sometimes you can't overpower or dominate a golf course sometimes. They're just too hard.
We talked about that at Wingfoot. There are golf courses that are difficult and set up difficult and whatever, that the moment you try to tell it what you're going to do, instead of listening to it telling you what to do, you need to be pretty perfect because it's going to penalize you. There's a reason that Cherry Hills is known as, such a esteemed golf course. It's a championship golf course. There's a reason for that. You can't dictate what the golf course. You can't just take from it. Arnold Palmer gets up there with driver and drives it on the green, and it's an amazing shot, and he pretty much hit a perfect golf shot, but you miss it either way. And there's a reason why people aren't trying to do that, because it takes guts and it also takes a tremendous shot, tremendous result. That's why these things are good, but that's why Annika has to go out and do that. She needs to put herself in it with a chance to win. That's why the first 3 rounds are so important. That's why golf is such an interesting sport. You at some point you do need to take that risk, and that's why you'll see these high rounds at Annika, and someone will be like, "Oh man, what a disappointing round." I said, "Well, yeah, but I completely had to change what I was doing because the other way wasn't allowing for me to make enough birdies to come back." So all of a sudden you develop a new game plan that is obviously a new game plan because the prior one was better for a 4-round tournament. You just weren't executing at the level you needed to.
The cost, the whole graphic, we had that a lot last year at the Women's Open because Gina Kim was an amateur at Duke and fired some stupid little round on Saturday at Kinchicova Charleston, and we're scrambling for all these amateur facts, so we can sound smart as a broadcaster. And I feel like we mentioned Lacoste over and over and over again. Obviously, being an amateur that has won this thing, but I can imagine that was probably a recurring note passed around. That's a great putt.
That's a great par. Laid up, did a smart thing, full shot. And see, again, going back to letting just taking what you can from the golf course. Didn't like the second shot, obviously, coming over the bunker. Front pin, no chance to stop it. Long was probably, in her head, in her mind, a more difficult layup, or more difficult up and down. So she lays up to a full number, was able to spin it, leave it below the hole, makes par.
We got a comment from Brian Marks. He said, "Let's get Max to watch himself play in one of these watch parties." Now, we mentioned we're going to do the 2013.
If we do Thursday, I played all right Thursday. So if anybody
listen, I got breaking news for you. Do you know what our final USGA Cisco regripped party's potentially going to be?
No.
Do you know this? Have I told you this?
No, you don't really tell me what we watch. I just show up and then I wing it.
Walker Cup, National Golf League, Max Homa. Might be doing that as our last one.
Is it the individual round, the singles at the end?
It is.
God, that's sick. That is awesome. All right.
When'd you make the hole in one?
That last round, no biggie.
Was it really that one? So maybe is it on? Do you know if it's on? Is it on the broadcast?
No idea. I lost the match. I made a
only hole in one in the history of the Walker Cup belongs to Max Homa, the man in the Dodgers hat.
Hey, so does Brittany Lang win a U.S. Open? Didn't she win at Cordoval?
No, she was. Yeah, she did win in Cordoval, right?
When was it Nordquist touches the sand on accident, literally moves 1 grain of sand?
It was like 3 grains.
Wild. Man.
It was a wild finish, the whole playoff. One in a playoff.
Wow.
She's won 2 events on the LPGA Tour in her career. Brittany Lang did. She won in 2012 and then that U.S. Open, both of them in a playoff.
That's awesome. Birdie Kim has an interesting golf swing. It comes a little steep and over the top. That's why that drive went high right. I think it stayed in, but it's also why she's able to spin the ball a little bit more coming to these greens. Chop it on the back of it a little bit.
That was pretty exact, okay? Or Jane?
Dude, her caddy's got the full chin strap. It's like the under chin strap.
He is an intimidating guy too. Seems like some big old biceps and some tattoos. So he's got the intimidation that Birdie does not have.
That's the 05 look, bro. That was just the super baggy sleeves. You didn't have to have biceps. You just had to have the double XL sleeves.
Good point. Hide them a little bit. She has a ton of speed, this Karen Stupples. Spot at beauty. Again, you don't get a lot of opportunities on golf courses where the lead is at 2, 3, 4 over par. That feels, you feel a little bit more pressure on that shot. You feel like you need to give yourself a good look. That putt is going to break quite a bit to the left. So again, it's a great shot for the U.S. Open. In that exact circumstance, you really need. Oh, never mind. I thought it was a drain. So this is obviously only 100 yards, but still going to be difficult to stop out of the rough. A little bit of a backstop. Always awkward when your hosel is going to get grabbed by that high cut of rough. Just difficult to judge, guess, whatever you want to call it. Loves it. I've always noticed that coming into that, even though you already hit the ball, it's like the ball has to travel through the thick grass, even though it wasn't in the thick grass. It has to travel through it, and then your club slows down as it's hitting it because it's grabbing. I always wonder if that's why those shots always seem to come up a little bit short. This is a great freaking hole. Tiny green, long iron. When it's firm, it runs off the left side with a big bounce. Yeah, and obviously a false front short. Really cool hole. Now you're stuck bumping it into the hill or going with a mega spinner.
When you're broadcasting really tough events, your attitude has to change too. Because I mean, you've heard good shot a couple times. On shots that if you're playing the Valspar, you're not going to get good shot, right?
Yeah,
but if it's the U.S. Open and everybody's 4 over, 5 over, 6 over, and scoring average is 76, you as well have to change your mentality. Oh my goodness.
Right. So this is made more difficult by the. This is where she takes her takeaway back, but then she usually comes back over the top. So this is hard. This is awkward. The takeaway is fine, but you got to somehow change your normal pattern to not hit the fence. And for those who know, if you hit the fence and miss the ball, it's a shot. So, or for those who don't know, so really fun spot.
And that was the rules with Max Homa. That's our new segment. Max will tell you one rule a day.
Keep them coming.
Today, fences.
Sick. So 2 layups in a row. She converted on the last one. See if she converts. So there are a ton of people.
So many people. Kind of ahead of her time too with the sponsor. Almost the new web.
KFT.
Almost the new web tour was her sponsor.
This shot just stinks. I mean, it's like on an uphill to left hand, so that helps a little bit with the fact that the ball's above your feet. But when the ball's above your feet, the ball draws more, doesn't spin as much, so it's harder to stop. So pretty much good freaking luck. Maybe hit it in the right bunker. I don't know. Foreshadowing. It's just a nightmare of a golf shot.
Almost identical shot. That's what happens under pressure is you just don't release your putter. You don't release your right side on the full swings. You lock up, leave the face open. That's a shame. Another great opportunity. Both Gulbis, Lang both hit great drives. It's in the bunker.
First women's open for Brittany Lang.
All right, big par putt here. Stay one back. Knowing what Birdie's doing in front of her. Oh,
man.
Yeah, so I mean, bogey's never fun, but on a hole that's more of a bit more of a placement hole, you have 100 yards in. On a golf course where birdies are not being had, feels like a big, kind of great par. Just feels like a big letdown, just because you're looking for one hole to kind of get going. Pink Panther.
So if you had to rank your top 5 players that have owned a color over the years, so Tiger would be, the red on Sunday. Bill and Gary Player, whichever one you want to pick, has kind of gone with the all black. I'm going to give it to Gary Player since it's kind of his nickname. Paula Creamer's got to be in the top 3 there, top 4, right? Ricky with the orange.
Paula Creamer with the pink for sure up there. Ricky with the orange. Sergio with the yellow banana suit.
Oh, no, come on.
British
That does not
Open.
make the list.
No, Paula's is up there, and it's good. Like, it looks good. I would say even Ricky's outfit he wore when he won the Wells Fargo with the all orange offset with like a little white. I mean, I'm all in on orange. I love his style, but that was a lot of orange, man. Like,
So much orange.
Paula pulls off the pink a little bit. I do think it helps that they get to wear something where you could show the bottom half of your legs, because when Ricky wears any orange pants, it's just a lot of orange. Like, if I wore
Just all orange.
yellow pants, it'd be a lot. I mean, Sergio just decided to dive in and go all yellow all day, all the time. But I mean, it's a lot more length. Where I feel like you could pull it off a little easier if it's the shorts. I like Paula's thing. I think it was a very good idea, very cool. Like I said, I thought that she always made it look cool and fun. Stood out a little bit, and obviously her play, as Michael Jordan has said on The Last Dance recently, none of that really does much if you're not playing great. She's played amazing. So is Ricky and Sergio. So you could own whatever color you want to own at that point.
You know what? I'm going to say Sergio doesn't make the list for me. The yellow doesn't make the list. So pay attention to this if you're watching, because this is, as we've said, a lot of foreshadowing for what's to come.
This seems like the birdie spot. Johnny said that she let it put herself in a tough spot, but this might be where you want to be to make a birdie. I haven't seen any yet. Lovely. Those are always so a nervy, like bunker shot or something. Just never. That was, I guess, not that bad because it kind of runs out to the hole. But I mean, it's the U.S. Open last hole. You need par. You think? I mean, you need par. Got to control a bit of nerves and hope to God you don't skull it into the clubhouse.
Somebody on Twitter said, this was back when Paula Creamer was a baller. Paula won a U.S. Open
What do you mean,
in 2010.
back when? Yeah.
She was a baller all the time.
Paula's been a baller. Paula has stayed a baller. So now she's 2 back, although Birdie looks like she's going to be making a little bogey coming up, paradoxically. Oxymoronically? How would you say that? God, her swing is sick.
It's so good. So I played. She worked with us
look
at
that thing roll.
She worked the senior women's open in the booth with myself. We were following Julie, trying to make history there, and unfortunately came up a little short. Again, finished in second, and that was at Pine Needles. Well, we went and played the Cradle one day at Pinehurst, and it was my boss Mark Loomis and Faxon and Quigley, and Morgan played with us. And, it's a little par 3 course, Max. I mean, there's nothing more than probably 120 yards is maybe the longest shot you're going to hit. First 3 or 4 holes, she is hitting absolute darts. And, it's like 3 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet. And she makes everything, as you can see with her stroke. Her putting stroke's incredible. I was like, how is she not winning everything? I mean, she was hitting it right on the absolute button on every shot.
Yeah, so it was fun getting to play, Brad's CVS Charity Classic. I love watching LPGA golf. I love the styles of game. And getting to be around Morgan and Lydia Ko, Brooke Henderson, So-Young Ryu, all the I think Paula was there, all the just unbelievable talents. Like, it was so fun to watch because they hit it off the middle so nicely. They very rarely ever seem to miss where they're aiming. It is a nice change of pace for me to get to watch that. Bogue. All right, 1-shot lead. Morgan's in the fairway. Oh, you look
And Max, I mean, Birdie's having to do this playing with Michelle. Michelle, I think Michelle shot 82.
Struggling, yeah.
So how do you deal with that even today, when you're maybe in contention, you're playing well, having a good week, and you're paired with a guy that shoots a million that day? How do you kind of keep yourself not focused on that, or even let it bother you?
I've never, ever been bothered by it. To me, it actually makes me feel more confident, because it's just like, I'm beating that. I'm doing better than that. This is hard. Now you're seeing in my head, it's like I'm making this seem a lot easier than it probably is or whatever. That's how it's looked to me. The only time that I guess that it would be distracting or whatever, or a negative, is if you're waiting on a 3-footer or a tough shot in a big spot and they're hacking it around a little bit and you just feel like you're waiting longer for it. Obviously, I guess the main one people bring up is you don't see the ball go in a lot from your competitor. There is something to be said about groups that seem to be rolling, both players roll or all 3 players roll because the hole seems big, but I've never bought into that much. I don't mind when people are playing poorly in my group. Besides if it's slow because of that, then obviously that's not ideal. But
so pretty much the biggest putt of her life to this point right here, which is, I mean, that's not hyperbole. It's just pretty much, make par and you post +4.
I wonder if you can hold the ponytails, keep the ponytails.
Golly.
See, that should go in. That's got to break left.
That was a great putt.
That's got to break left. I wonder if you can focus on keeping the ponytail still. That means your head's really still. If that can somehow be like a perfect, maybe I'll grow it out.
You kind of have it
halfway
going.
There.
You won't show us the side. You won't do side view.
I look handsome, man.
Well, no,
Lacey loves it.
But you're taking no. You're taking it the wrong way. You're sitting here saying
it's too long, which means there's a mistake. Like it's gone too long.
Curling. I mean, it is curling up.
Yeah, I like to curl it. I'm gonna look cool. I'm gonna look like Dansby. What's his face from the Braves? Dansby Swanson. Right? Is that right? I didn't look it up. Research team, which is just me.
Scotty, come over here. Google this.
Yeah, Dansby Swanson. I knew I was right. And he's cool.
Seymour putters in the 2-ball. Really,
the 2-ball was hot. I love that thing. Oh boy.
Whoa.
Greens are quick. 2-ball. Yeah, the 2-ball putter was sweet. Yeah, I never did the Seymour route. And Karen Supples bombs it.
She won the British Open the year before. She won the Women's British in 2004 and came in here. But yeah, I mean, so 153 left. The hole's 433.
280? No.
Yeah.
I forgot the numbers.
Paige McKenzie, who we saw on the leaderboard, tweeted, Lang underappreciated because of the drama at the end, but led the field in greens and regulation that week as an amateur. Pretty impressive.
That's wild.
Really, and, I mean, that putt on 18, again, I've watched 05. I remember 05. I remember the bunker shot and all that. I didn't remember how great a putt she had. I mean, that's a hell of an up and in right there, right? And just the putt doesn't go in.
You leave as an amateur, especially. I mean, we talked about the Lorena, but you leave there knowing I hit an unbelievable putt with all the nerves, and I just led a field of the best golfers in the world in ball striking. I'm ready for this. Like, I'm good enough. Like, that's how you leave. You can hang your hat on that. This just seems really hard.
just
this a little bump and run up. Yeah, I mean. Stop it on that front pin.
Well, I was playing with you probably a couple of weeks ago. We were playing a par 5 at a golf course here in Phoenix, and the pin was in the front, and it had a similar huge hill up front. And you hit a shot, and you told me after you were trying to bump. They were in the fairway. You were trying to bump it into the hill from like 220.
Yeah. I mean, in like a tournament golf, I'd probably just fly a little farther and take 30 feet, but it is fun to be able to play like I'm in the British Open.
Nice.
Beautiful 2-putt. See, that's where you want to putt from. The issue is how the heck are you supposed to get the ball to stop there for your second or third? Morgan said what's the tough line? Just not a lot close.
What's the toughest tournament golf course conditions? Like, what's the one? Is there one that pops in your brain of your lifetime that you played in that you remember? Just the golf course was just too. Not, I don't want to say too much for you, but you know what I'm saying. It was the whole time you were like, this thing's impossible.
Bay Hill obviously was one of those, and then Marion was brutal. Part of it I wish I would have known the golf course a little bit better, but Marion was one of those, missed the fairway, and you have almost no chance to hit the green or get out by the green. That was obviously U.S. Open, but I mean Bay Hill's greens were they were crusty. They were hard. You do the thing where you put the putter down and read the putt, and then you slide and skid out.
Oh, the worst.
Down a lot.
You know
But
what?
yeah,
We didn't put that in our we didn't put that in our random golf injury, sports injury thing. It's not
I
an
never
injury.
actually hurt myself with it yet, but I'm waiting on it. So this is the chip. Paul Creamer had it hit to 8 feet beyond it, so that's a great shot to be able to leave it short of that hole.
Let's go to 16.
This just a moment ago. Par putt for Paula
So
Creamer.
she's in it. I mean, I guess this is for par, but if she would have birdied, one or two coming on the stretch, you're still putting quite a bit of pressure on Birdie to make pars coming in. Obviously, that's going to really hurt her chances. Here's where you might need to go for 17 now. No one's going to hit it close to 2 on 17. It's hard enough to hit it in 3, but you might make another bogey. Then all of a sudden, it feels like you played your way out of it when you did.
What can this possibly be like for you right now?
It's a great feeling. I hung tough out there and was patient. I didn't get off to the best of starts, but I finished real strong. It feels great.
How were you able to put this kind of week together, being that this is your first Open Championship?
I came out here just to have some fun, play some golf. It's a great golf course, and I had a lot of fun this week, and I think that's why I played so well.
What kind of past experiences did you draw upon as you were out there, particularly on the back 9 today?
The Curtis Cup, definitely. There was a lot of big crowds out there, and then our national NCAA championship. Just getting used to all the fans. It was a lot of fun.
Can you describe what it was like in this final round of your first U.S. Open, and in particular, what was going through your head on the back 9?
I didn't look at a scoreboard the whole day. I looked up and saw that my name was on the leaderboard. That's all I needed to know. So I knew I was somewhere back in it, but I didn't look at any numbers. And I think that helped me, and I played very solid coming in.
All right, congratulations, 19-year-old from McKinney, Texas. Let's go out to 14.
Pressel for par.
Man, I need that mentality. That was like a Southern California interview. She was chill.
Little chill, but I think she walks off that knowing that, I'm gonna be here for a while. You're gonna get used to watching me because it's not like I scraped it around. It's not like things go my way. Like I outplayed a lot of people. These are always fun. 4 holes to go to win the U.S. Open.
It's this 3-footer that moves out, so you have to play it outside the hole.
Yeah. She is below the hole, I think, which helps, but none of them are fun. 2-footers feel like 4. Beauty. These nails, man.
Birdie Kim, a part of that South Korean pipeline.
So that 5 over is still very much alive. We saw what happened on 18. We just saw Paula bogey 16, 17 is absolutely no gimme, at least for birdie. So a lot to need to accomplish here on the last 3 just to keep inside the +5 number, let alone know what Morgan's going to do behind her.
In Korea, after starting to play this game at the age of 11.
This is where I love the dynamic of the pairings. I mean, it is a big deal to be the last group in this. To me, I mean, I know Birdie can puts pressure on Morgan, but Morgan will know the number before Birdie knows the number. Like if Morgan makes a birdie here, all of a sudden they're tied. She gets to play off of it. Birdie collapses, all of a sudden Morgan's sitting there at just needing pars to come in. That's why getting into those final groups, making the putts on Saturday at the end to get yourself in there is important. It is a big deal. You always rather know what you need to do than not, I guess is the point.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's talked about enough, the 2019 Masters and the changing of the scheduling and with the weather and the pushing it up and going to threesomes. Tiger gets in that spot. I mean, that he wants, just like you're saying, he wants to be in a position where he can see and know everything because it's all ahead of him.
And then also people are waiting on you behind to do something. You just played the hole. You know what the possibility is. There's uncertainty there.
Can you get this close here, Max?
I mean, Birdie's chip was hard enough. I mean, I think you can hit 20 feet, but I mean, with a four iron, no. You need to land it on the very front edge, which they've all almost done. But no.
That's been the
Yeah.
pattern. Morgan
I'm just
Pressel
wondering
going
with how
six,
thick the
ball
rough
goes
is, you
back
probably
into the
well, that is
into the
better,
thick
but
rough.
short might be better than long, so it might be worth taking a gamble. The front right bunker is probably not so bad if you're in the very, towards the pin side of it, but not a very kind pin. I think they heard you say that not a lot of pins had been on the front of the greens yet. I think the
two of the
USGA
last
heard you.
three.
Andrews School
Yeah.
in fall in Florida from day one here at Cherry Hills has had one goal in mind. A fearless 17-year-old who feels her time has come.
We'll hear her.
I don't see why I should be intimidated. I mean, I've played good golf up to here. You know, I've played well enough to play my way into the last group, and if I'm leading the tournament, then why not go ahead and try and win it? Why should I be intimidated by anything else?
Pressel exudes the confidence of a golfer who's been there before, and she has, as the youngest player to ever qualify in this championship 4 years ago at the age of 12. But after a first-round 77 at Pine Needles, the young Pressel showed the same emotions that make up her will to succeed today.
No, I didn't play too well. I didn't hit the ball well. And I just want to play well tomorrow.
She would go on to miss the cut in her first Open. 2 years later, at Pumpkin Ridge, she'd made it to the weekend before finishing 52nd. Now, after another 2 years, she would like to save those tears for a victory and a championship unparalleled in her sport.
It is the biggest tournament in women's golf, and to be on top of this event is, at my age, is a pretty big thing.
Morgan Pressel, her uncle is...
You talked about that. You know, we think 17 and we're surprised by a 17-year-old with a chance, but the experience is kind of there. You know, it's wild, but, you know.
So Birdie Kim, this is her third major appearance. It is also Morgan Pressel, 17-year-old, third major appearance. Like, they're in the same boat as far as majors go. And she's already played in 2 U.S. Opens, which I'm assuming would be more than Birdie. So it's wild, man. You think age is the experience. Experience is experience. You get to these tournaments. You already been there, done that. She was freaking 12, and she's upset she didn't play great. Most 12-year-olds are just hoping that their mom lets them go, get an ice cream after the round.
We like Coco Gauff right now in tennis.
Oh God!
You play her.
Unbelievable.
That needs to bite. Wow.
Another one that went off in her hands.
But
fortunate that thing was on the hill.
I was just saying, like Coco, when she plays people now, the I can't believe I'm here factor's gone, right? And I mean, now you've got to go out there and beat her, and it's different than when she's just on the scene, happy to be kind of in and around the event.
So much of that stuff, why you will see someone like Morgan obviously catch her stride at this event and then going forward. At such a young age, when maybe they don't excel, it's not even that so much of it has to do with getting much better at golf. It's just being comfortable and feeling that level of I belong here. What Brittany basically learned about herself this exact week is, yeah, I belong here. I don't need to worry. And then all of a sudden, like you're saying about Coco, like the wow factor's gone. Her abilities just start to completely come out. And again, there you go. There's finally a great shot. But you finally get to see the skills without any mental hold up. There's no fear, there's no anything. You're finally comfortable just playing golf. But everyone, I'm sure, is seeing at home on a Tuesday, you're finally starting to show on the weekend of a major.
We got a question for you.
Amazing.
What's that?
Tiger's first couple Masters weren't amazing, and he starts to get his footing on tour, and then he wins by 14 or 12 or whatever it was. It's like,
right.
What even there's a little bit of comfort needed to make these jumps. He was probably almost just as good the year prior as far as full physical skills. It's not like he wasn't a tremendous player.
I got a question from Hap McWedge, which is a great name, by the way. When green speeds are super fast like this, do you change how you hit short 3 to 4 footers?
No, I know that people talk about hitting it off the toe. Never bought that. You should be able to hit a putt an inch and soft enough. But yeah, obviously, you change the way you read them. You read putts with a lot more break. You make sure that you're not going to be, especially when the putt's, a side hill putt. You don't want to be putting from 4 feet, obviously coming back. So you need to add more break and drip it in.
Wow,
that's a huge putt. Unbelievable.
That's two of those
from the fringe. Yeah. Yeah, you don't change. I mean, you continue to putt, but you don't want. We talked about it before the rounds. I'll talk to Joe. Like, we need to be below the holes here, or I need to keep reminding myself I don't want 3 feet coming back on these 15 footers if it's going to be one of those days where we're going to have a lot of them, because you just don't want to put the stress on you. But again, that's the difficulty of majors, is you need to start making birdies at some point. So you got to pick your spots where you're going to make the very aggressive stroke, or if you're just going to do a great job of what I think everyone works on, is making aggressive strokes with conservative reads. Something with a higher amount of break, so that the ball is going to die a little bit more into the side of the hole. 3-4 feet. 3-4 feet. I hit putts firm all the time, and I if it's an inside the hole putt from 3-4 feet and the greens are fast, I'm still going to hit it at my normal speed, because I try to have the faith that I'm going to roll it straight enough. But I know people that like to diet more, and that on the faster greens it's a shorter stroke, so it probably feels a little more comfortable.
When we came on, we were talking about how no putts were going in, and right now with 3 holes to go, it feels a little like 06 when we watched last week. When you go, how is this not Morgan's to win? I mean, she's the only one making putts right now.
Yeah, Birdie's getting up and down from the fairways, or at least keeping herself in it. She's done a tremendous job of not biting off more than she could chew. She, has laid up the last few holes, one from an obvious spot, but a couple from where maybe people would have tried to go for it, but she just pitched it on the fairway. She's made a bogey, but she also made her par. She'll probably bogey this, but, those are the things that we saw last week at the Winged Foot, making doubles and triples from the rough instead of laying it up and making a bogey. You never know how far that could go. And Birdie had obviously a great game plan. Maybe her caddy was doing a great job, and maybe she was just doing a great job of laying it up, but not wasting shots, especially when she has some to play with, or one to play with. Making Morgan keep making pars, maybe make a birdie, but Birdie's not going to double her way out of this golf tournament.
3 holes left. Morgan in the fairway, obviously.
So it looks like it's going to be probably at least a tie after 16.
Right. Chance on 17. I mean, that's got to feel like the only real chance on the entire golf course, maybe. Is that fair?
I would say where Morgan just hit her drive on 16, she's got a chance, because the pin's in the back, so she'll be able to skip one back there, and I'm sure she doesn't have too long of a club in. So probably not quite the only, but 17, yeah, I mean, obviously now for Birdie, she's thinking par, hopefully a playoff, but maybe, dumb one in on 17, or maybe hit a great wedge on 17. But having the lead, obviously 3 holes ago, is a great spot, but it's not like she's hit the ball great these last 3 holes, Birdie. She's struggled, so I'm sure she's just trying to hang on a little bit and get to the finish line.
Yeah, I have a question I've always wanted to ask a professional athlete, and I guess I have to ask you since nobody else is on the line. Do you sign stuff, like, is your autograph the same way you sign like a check?
Are you trying to steal my identity, Shane?
Well, I already have your social.
Are you going? Are you doing?
I'm gonna sit.
What's the Leonardo DiCaprio movie where he starts making fake checks? Are you trying to do that?
Yes, Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can. I will. No comment, Shane.
Okay, no comment. But so when do you learn how to? Now, like, we're seeing an amateur autograph stuff. I'm sure that would have made you, as an amateur, uncomfortable to sign stuff since you have no idea how to autograph stuff.
You practice, man. Like any young
practice
kid,
the autograph.
When you were a kid, you didn't practice in your little notebook when you weren't paying attention in math class or whatever. Maybe that's just me because my math isn't very good. But
I wasn't as good as you at golf.
No, you just practice because it's fun. Cursive is fun back in the day.
No comment. Wow. You're so scared about your identity.
I got an awesome identity, man.
No haircut,
nice,
no
handsome hair.
Not going to share your signature with the people. I haven't seen much
people
Michelle
taking my
today.
signature
Like
from the hat. It's beautiful. It's changed a lot over time. She's much less pregnant here as well.
That's very true.
I think that has a little bit to do with
Expecting her
current
first
state
kiddo
of
coming.
whatever Michelle's swing is.
Her time will come, I'm sure. But
Yeah, that's a.
with a 7 over par
And you know what?
42.
Time will come. She wins
Yes,
that,
but
that
what's
U.S.
crazy
Open.
is how long it takes. I'm not knock on not a knock on her. It just shows how hard golf is. Like this is a
Right.
can't miss person, and it was. She did miss. She's had a tremendous career, but
13,
she's
14,
15 at these U.S. Open. She wins the next one. She wins her U.S. Open in
And you don't want to hit in the right
2012.
spot, do you?
14? Is that right or no?
both sides. And the rough feet on both
14. Yeah,
sides.
14. She wins it in 2014. So just imagine that's 9 years later. We're already used to seeing her in the second-class group. Golf is just so hard, and again, goes back to the Lorena point. You don't get a lot of chances to win majors. There's just not a lot of them, especially U.S. Opens.
Move back to the 16th. Morgan Pressel getting
See, I
ready
mean,
for
it's
the
fair.
second.
Like, that's a
Here's the
good
chance
view.
here.
That's a good
Yeah.
view they just showed, Max, to your point. Like, downwind, but if you throw it on the front, it's got a chance to chase back there, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to look at any back pin as an opportunity. It looks like she's got a maybe a 9-iron in, I'm guessing. I don't know. But yeah, it only has to land 5-10 on it, and it's going to run back there. So this is a good chance.
She's working it at the center of the green. See if it'll come left.
It should. It takes
Again, perfect. Underneath the hole, that is ideal. And that's what the back pins and a fairway can do, where Birdie had to lay up back to where Morgan's was. And it's obviously not an easy shot, but it's a lot easier when it's your second.
That's a pretty loaded leaderboard when you look at this. I mean, Lorena, Paula. I mean, you got Lang.
Awesome leaderboard.
While we were away, this was
Young Joe.
But for par at 17. Did it have any chance at all?
You remember Young Jock? Did you ever listen to Young Jock?
Okay, nicely done.
No.
Along with young Joe, Paula Creamer.
Good?
It'd be a good golf one. You had that song, Meet Me in the Trap, bunker trap, get it? A little play on words.
Nice.
Back to the fairway.
You know,
An important layup.
just some things to think about.
I'm going to download it when we get off, and I'm going to play it. Play it around the house. See if Henry gets into it.
He'll love it.
My 11-month-old really into Drake right now. Any Drake song you put on, he smiles and like gets really. Hey, loves it. I'll send you a video when we get done. When he plays the song, he gets fired up.
She has 185 to 100 yard layout.
Yeah, this is where you're just trying to get the number right. You want to leave yourself with whatever shot you spin the most. Oh gosh.
That's perfect.
It looked like she timed it, but I think it's fine.
I don't think she hit it solid, so it might not have hit her number exactly. But yeah, you're trying to leave yourself something that you're comfortable with. Obviously, you do not want to get too close enough to hit a little pitch over that, just because you're not going to be able to stop it.
Could you guys, when you played here back at the amateur, could you guys get on 17 and 2?
Yeah, I mean, we could hit iron, and but it was still a ridiculously hard shot. I think when I did it, I want to say I landed on the right side of the green and it hopped over long right into the water. It's a really hard shot for whatever you have. Also, I think they ended up adding a cross bunker that you had to decide if you're going to go short of or over. If you went short of it, you could get there, but it was a wood, so more likely than a layup. If you hit driver, you have to bomb one. I feel like you almost had to either one hop it over the bunker or really send one, and then you could have something more like a 7 or something at 7-iron in. But usually I played short of those bunkers, and if I was going to go for it, I try to hit like a high.
Man, in the tee.
I thought that was in. Oh my gosh.
That thing did slow down fast. Johnny said that. That thing hit the brakes.
I thought it was there easy.
Well played hole.
Yes, very well played.
She thought she cashed this.
She did. Especially because she's making everything under the sun.
You know when you talk about perfectly played golf holes, if that putt goes in, it's like beautiful tee shot.
Yeah.
Beautiful second shot.
Great point.
Was a birdie that would give her the lead in this championship at even par. And then Pressel here at the 7th. This coming after.
She said it when she was on earlier with us. Morgan said, probably the best I've ever putted in my entire life this week. In any event.
I believe her. Small sample size. We haven't seen it all, but it's pretty darn good.
Another par save. This coming after a bogey at 13.
The only one she missed was a great putt on the hole. She had she left it short of the bunker on 13.
Yeah.
She had a great putt. It just was fast and downhill. Most of these putts not most of them, but a lot of these putts she's making firm in the back there, they're putting uphill. Obviously, when she's rolling it so well, it must feel very easy.
She made a bunch of 7, 8, 9 footers yesterday. She said she really didn't want to leave herself in that sort of position, but boy, she sure has managed to deliver.
Well, she's had to deal with tougher things. In September of 2003, she lost her mother, Kathy, to breast cancer, and that probably puts things in perspective. That's a tough thing for a young
2 holes to go.
teenager to have to go through, I would imagine.
Par 5, and then 18, basically
Par
possible.
4.5.
So no birdies on 18 to this point all day. In both ways, actually. There's been no birdie on the 18th, and no birdie has.
I was about to take that, but I was deciding if I was going to wait till the last hole to do it or right now. I was going to say there ends up being 2.
You know what? What do you think headline writers? This is 05. I mean, this is newspapers are pumping, bro. I mean,
they're praying. They're praying. Actually, you could do something with. If people know about like golf gambling, you could use Press or Pressel.
Press the issue. I would bet you that when somebody told a headline writer in New York City, hey, by the way, somebody named Birdie won the U.S. Women's Open with the birdie on the last, they're like, what do you want me to? What are you asking here? What are you asking me for? Really? You want me to be creative with this? I can't even be creative. It's actually probably harder to make that make sense.
Yeah, probably because it's like too easy. One of our teammates in college name was Pace, and every time you ever led like an amateur event, the newspaper would say like setting like the pace setter or something like that. It was just very, very understandably predictable.
Did you get any headlines like maxed out or took it to the max? Did they ever do that with you?
I don't remember. That'd be a good question. That's my mom. I'm sure she does.
If you won the U.S. Open and I was on the call, what would you want me to say? You can make like a 30-footer to win the U.S. Open.
See ya at TP. We're buying.
I'm just screaming into the microphone. Yeah. People are like, "Well, that was an awkward call."
I want you to yell, "Man, this is going to be the greatest podcast ever!"
Subscribe to get a grip.
Yeah, subscribe to get a grip. So she's got a good look, but every single person we've seen hit that putt is running like 8 feet by. So
I know.
Little nerve-wracking for her. What a great 17's a great par 5.
It was hanging live. Goodness.
Yes, it's just very hard to be on the left side of the fairway. Lorena talked about it when she did it the day before. It almost went into the water down the left because it just keeps running. That's a fun shot. It's so hard.
It's so hard.
Especially considering the clubs that they're hitting in, longer irons and some woods we've seen. It's one thing I think I remember hitting 6-iron in there, which obviously is also a long iron, and it was really hard to stop. But I mean, imagine a 5-wood, 3-wood, type situation. Everyone's missing this putt left and freaking like way too hard.
Well, this putt downhill, Gary, at 25 feet. It's pretty flat around the hole. I think it's going to do a lot.
Yeah, the tendency has been to overread it.
She's looking right at the hole, Gary, not looking left.
It's amazing how everyone will see things the same. Like everyone saw the break left. I mean, except Tiger, when they're always like everyone's misses putt left, and then Tiger makes it right in the middle. Like everybody missed the putt left. Now Morgan's got to be. I mean, she's all of a sudden tied for the lead with like the upper hand. She didn't make birdie on 17 here. Pretty good spot to be in. Not that 17 is playing very easy, but. You feel like 17 is the type of hole that if you play it the way you can, the best way you can, you'll have a very short birdie putt. Whereas some of the other holes, it feels like a lot has to kind of go your way. Here, if you hit a good drive, you lay up to the correct number on the correct side of the fairway, and you hit your 75-yard wedge shot, it will stop. It will feel more like an easy hole. Whereas the rest, it feels like that par 3. I mean, I haven't seen Morgan miss the line on any of her shots yet, but I mean, stopping it near the hole seems to be a nightmare.
Just thick.
Speaking of nightmares,
6 inches long.
They're impossible.
Here to Denver and try this stuff. They can grow grass here thick. Look at that thing kick left, but she played for it. Might hit the pin.
Oh!
She needed that to hit the
That was
pin.
beautiful.
Very, very good shot from there regardless.
Yeah, she gave it a great try.
Best she can post is +6. So that kind of
It is tough. It's got to be tough getting to 18, you know, knowing that it's basically impossible to make up a shot on this hole, you know.
Yeah, but again, going back to the tee time situation, if Morgan's tied going to that hole, or even if she's one back, a par very well could be good enough. Obviously we know what happens, and it's the opposite. But yeah, you're looking at it almost like, you know, if I'm tied, it's more likely that she's going to make a bogey than make a birdie. If I just make a par, I'm in a, you know, the driver's seat. I'm in a fantastic spot, and I'm going to get to watch what happens. I guess you could look at it the exact opposite with birdie. Is if I make par here, it puts a ton of pressure on her. I don't think Morgan laid up in the best spot there. I know it's in the fairway, but I don't think it was the ideal angle.
Oh man, they're showing it again.
At +3.
And she hit this ball, in case you just tuned in, 2 inches fat and pulled it.
She was 1 off.
You know, I mean, I'm not piling on one of the best players of all time in Lorena Ochoa, but you know what? You talk about golf swings on a 72nd hole of a major. Historically, I mean, I don't know if I remember many that were that, you know.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
I mean, you know, Phil last week. I mean, Phil last week was, you know, 40 yards left of the fairway. You know, so I mean, it happens. I mean, it happens to, you know, really great players. I'm just saying, it's to see that from Lorena Ochoa is jarring. I mean, it's hard to believe that happened. She makes quadruple bogey sitting there with the win. I mean, what did Kay say? Johnny said 75% chance to win if she makes par.
It goes back to everyone's favorite joke, even like the average, you know, Sunday golfer. The most nervy club to hit is the 3-wood because it's on the ground and it's the easiest to fat. So I guess it happens to the best of them, but.
First couple holes when you're young and inexperienced and have the lead or share the lead, sort of sets up the whole round, and it's a shame because she was the gallery favorite along with Annika Sorenstam.
Nice. This is what she's talking about, though, right?
So this is perfect. It's going to roll so close to the water, but this gets you. Oh no, I guess it stopped. This gets you off of some of that hanging lie.
Give her credit for hanging in there. Sometimes that's really, really hard.
Yeah. At +10 and Kim at +2.
But this hole will make you nervous if you're playing by yourself in the evening. Lake's sort of saying, don't duck hook it and don't block it in the right rough, even though it's a 40-yard wide fairway.
Oh, she's taking her driver, Johnny. Wind is helping her.
I've never understood.
Really not much of it out.
What hole is a duck hook okay on?
Right, her swing, she has a tendency to cut across it at impact.
Like what hole? What hole is a duck hook okay and what hole is a push okay? Like you never want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point.
Not good anywhere.
You know what? If you're leading the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, you know what? You don't want to hit on the 18.
Don't duck hook it on 18.
Or push it, or block push it. You know what you don't want to do on 18 at Winged Foot with a lead?
Duck hook it, push it. You don't want to do it on number 1 at Papago.
Pressel's third at 17 from 81 yards.
Beauty. Left. I thought it was going to spin right. Yeah, so
from 35 feet.
I mean, the course is hard.
The course is playing tough. We haven't seen, I mean, of all the stuff that the course is doing to the players, we are not seeing many shots within 10 feet, if any at all.
No. Yeah, it's obviously Firm does that too. They put the pins in some great spots. Obviously, Morgan took advantage of a back pin, but every time it seems like there's a front pin. It's pretty dang difficult to get anywhere near it. That one, Morgan's first shot that wasn't right on line.
You know, she was always big into telling me to try 100%, 150%, 200% on everything, and you know, if say you don't make a putt on this hole, go to the next hole, you're going to make another putt. You know, and you know, she was so competitive, and I think that's one of the biggest things that I take from her is my competitive spirit, because I'm really competitive out on the course.
So. Could definitely feel and see the emotion in her voice as she talked about her late mom, dad out in
And
Florida.
just because they're talking about, you know, Morgan's mom passing away for breast cancer, Morgan has a foundation. If you ever want to check it out, she does an unbelievable job with it, and they raise a ton of money for breast cancer and research. So check that out if you can. Morgan was nice enough to jump on with us. And again, I mean, golf balls, you know, she sells that support it and support the foundation. So she's really taken the reins with that and just run with it. And it's been really impressive to watch. So here, you know, an outside look at Birdie here at 17. But Max, you know, just put yourself in the situation for a moment, knowing how tough 18 is. She has to be thinking, even at 17, par's got to be at least good enough for some more golf, right?
Yeah, I would probably say that. I mean, she's putting it so well. She's expected to make this. She's very in the moment. You know, she's still in the driver's seat. One birdie coming in, the last two is going to win the tournament. You know, pretty much 99. Well, now she probably knows almost 100% of the time. She's putting it great. Put a great roll on it. Obviously, a good test of nerves. You have 8 inches, you know, foot going by. It's perfect speed. But yeah, now you go to 18. You're nervous. You got to hit that tee shot. You have to par. Making par for you is just as hard as anybody else. But you do feel like you're in the driver's seat. You're feeling like a par gets you in a playoff at worst. Dun dun dun.
You're good. You're good at letting them know. Kind of let them know. So we said this earlier. This at the time, longest par 4 in U.S. Women's Open history. And no birdies to this point. Not a single birdie.
Well, one. That's so your joke.
Right here, 193. So yeah, no threes. No three. I'll say it this way: no threes carded at 18 today.
Well played. The most common shot ever off that lie is to hang it right. It's so weird. Most people like to pull it, but when you know left is bad, it's so easy to hit this like thin right ball that never has a prayer. You know, if you turn it, you know, it goes long left and it's no fun. But just a brutal hole.
Just tears so hard. I mean, I am just so impressed by how many people are here. I mean, that's unbelievable. Let's go back to Cherry Hills. A trillion people.
I mean, they had the BMW there not too long ago. Horschel won. Look at that, 163, and her power is tremendous. 30 yards in front of Birdie, and she hit 3-wood, and Birdie hit driver, I think.
Yeah.
So that was obviously not, you know, she had a tough day, but like that's where you need to be hitting it from. She didn't hit a great shot, but that's much flatter. It's much easier to make your normal golf swing, not have to force anything, worry about the lie here and there.
Morgan getting ready to hit her shot here. She's hit a couple of low bullets here during the week.
So Brittany Lang's got a very real chance. I didn't know that.
Hey, I got to bring it up. The dude behind Morgan just went with his shoes off, like the guy at the plane, on the plane that takes his shoes off.
Unsubscribe. I am not a fan.
No, put them back on, man. You're in the shot.
Put them back on.
He's got it right there.
Oh, yeah. He wants to feel the grass between his toes.
Your shoes are right there. It's not your living room.
Beauty of a tee shot. What's crazy is you got to think, if you're Brittany Lang right now, Birdie is very likely going to make a bogey from that bunker. Now, Morgan's going to have a great shot. She's in the best part of the fairway you could be in. But Brittany's like, man, I catch 2 bogeys, which is, I'm sure the hole is playing half a shot at least over par. That's a great reaction. But yeah, she's thinking, I'm going to be in this playoff.
Right.
That's the thing. Morgan just had she's had phenomenal reactions all day, and I know that there's another reaction coming up that people talked about or whatever. But like, she's clearly wearing her emotions on her sleeve. Like, it's good. Like, she's a person. She's not a robot. Like, it's nice. It's nice to see.
Well, I mean,
it's endearing what she
feel
just
like,
did.
Yeah, but like the athlete now, and the modern day athlete, it's don't be boring, but then don't be be emotional.
Also, don't be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It's where's the line? I mean, you deal with this on social media a lot, where you say something funny or you roast a swing, and it's obviously in jest, and you get the 5 or 10 guys that are like, if you weren't finished 63rd at whatever, and you're like, well, do you want me to just not do this? Because I can not do this as well, right?
And then you'll be boring. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's a pretty cool world. It just can never be right.
Pretty nice to have Michelle. I mean, not like it was Michelle going first for not being out, but getting to see the ball react and all that had to be helpful.
Happened with Van de Velde and what's his face at the 99 Open. Hit right before him. Craig Perry hit right before Van de Velde and got to show him a little bit of how it's done.
Hey, guess what? Miles Nixon, who is the caddy with the facial hair, that we've been talking about, just tweeted at us. He's watching, and he was the caddy for Birdie Kim in the tournament. Now, his handle is @Miles Nixon. So either it is the actual caddy, or somebody is really bored on Saturday and created that Twitter account.
Is he intimidating in the way he writes, like he looks? Because he's scary, dude.
Miles, we have some questions for you if you're listening. We need to know, how are the biceps in 05? And are you yay or nay on your facial hair choice for this final round? That's what we need to hear. Tweet at us if you can. Thank you.
All right, also, congrats and everything.
Yeah. Here we go. Prepare yourself.
Breaks left, runs away. Not the hardest bunker shot if you're not nervous as all can be. She fatted it.
Look at this.
Talk about great moments in USGA history. My goodness.
Morgan Pressel just got robbed.
Morgan Pressel just got robbed, is what Johnny Miller said. Morgan Pressel just got robbed. What a shot.
She think he chunked it.
I know, but I mean, maybe she was kind of playing the chunk.
I'm not one to care if the ball goes where it goes, but it wasn't. I don't think that's how.
You don't think it was the crispest?
Fringe. No, it's like the Rory 3-wood at the PGA when he beats
Finned it, Valhalla.
And he necked it on 10 to like
totally finned it. It was terrible. It chased
terrible. Worst shot of his life that goes 8 feet. That is so cool. Now, I mean, I get it. Morgan got robbed, but she is a great spot to make birdie. I know no one's making birdie. I'm not saying that it's an easy thing, but the golf tournament is far from over. It does say, I mean, Morgan played perfect golf since I've watched. I mean, minus a half of a chip. My dog's about to bark, just FYI, everybody.
Unbelievable.
Oh, she only growled. We're good.
What was it, UPS or something?
It was Lacey forgot something, and I thought she was going to knock on the door to get in. All right, we're good. Crisis averted. What a world. So now what do you, I mean, this is unprecedented. This
you tell us.
Happen.
You tell us what you do.
Now, I mean, again, Morgan talked about it. I don't think that I think that where the reaction, although I like people being themselves, I don't like to show much emotion up or down. So I don't want to show it down, because to the exact point, what her reaction says a little bit is, you got to be kidding me, where that's negative. Like, that's the kind of negative where you need to, you're probably thinking that, I'm thinking that in my head, but at the same time, I need to look around like, yeah, I'm still going to make birdie, so whatever. Like, I was planning on making birdie to win. Now I'm just going to make birdie to tie. Like, I know that it's way easier said than done, but I'm sure that that's what she references about like growing up a little bit, where she didn't maybe need to go outward with the emotion to show everybody that was disappointing, although we all know it's disappointing. But yeah, that's how I'm taking it. I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, dang, that's a great shot. I'm trying not to, mother up him in my head, I guess, and also try to think, all right, how am I going to make birdie? Now, the only good thing is now there's no indecision. You need birdie. You don't need par.
Right.
Before you're making par or birdie, you need to make sure you're making par. Birdie obviously wins it and is better, so you want to give yourself an opportunity, but you can't be overly aggressive. Now it's like, you know what, whatever, gung-ho, I'm going for this bird. Yeah, I like that, Johnny. What Johnny said, I like running it up this thing. I mean, they haven't seen everyone's shot, but that seems to be the only real way to get it close.
Oh, what a brutal kick that was.
Yeah, that's worse than the bunker shot goal. That should have scooted up.
That thing kicked straight right.
Straight right. That was a great shot. I think that has the potential to be inside 20 feet.
Yeah.
That stinks. It's amazing momentum, man. Things just start to feel like they're going the wrong way so fast. And now she's got that chip we saw is easier to make than to probably get up and down because you could maybe crash the pin. But obviously, neither of those options are very likely.
I mean, I hope they show that again on whatever the kick was, because the ball flight, they showed off the club face. I mean, and the camera angle is a camera angle, but looked like she was kind of hitting a low draw.
Yeah, she had been hitting a low draw, so I mean, it fit. You would think it didn't sound like she hit it super crisp off that lie, but that's I think why she was playing the low chaser, because that was kind of the biggest room for error to get it to bounce up on, and then gets absolutely you're right. It's just turning left and the thing gets kicked the wrong direction.
Man, you talk about being deflated. I mean, you're sitting there going, I've played. Max, I feel like when the courses are tough, as an observer, I feel like when the conditions get really tough and the courses play brutally hard, I feel like the players that have the days are the ones that look at it like a chessboard and not like a golf course. It's like, I don't care how I make par. I don't care how pretty it is. I don't care what I got to do, what I have to hit off tees or whatever. I just got to make par on 14, and then I got to make par on 15. And it's that mentality that I think is successful. I feel like Morgan played chess all day. All day.
Yeah, I'll change a little what you said. I don't think you're thinking about scores, but I think that you're taking each shot for what it is. And that's where I believe Morgan didn't make a mistake all day. But that's where I think Birdie won the golf tournament, because I think it's very underrated how she played those holes when she hit him in the rough and literally took on absolutely nothing. She just played out she took what the lie was, she took what the golf course was, she didn't try to overpower it. She played chess from shot to shot. I think it's way easier to, and kind of, it's kind of crazy to say, hey, I'm just going to par 14, I'm just going to par 15, I'm just going to par 16, because, well, what if I bomb it on 16? I have 80 yards, and is my mindset to make par? But I get the point is, yes, like in the grand scheme of it, but in general, I think that you're going to play each shot for what it allows for and what you can get out of it. And Birdie, I thought, did an unbelievable job of that. Morgan just hit it so well that she didn't even have to make a decision. She was playing unbelievable golf. Just a few shots, maybe landed a few too many yards or a few too short, because she was online on essentially every single shot.
So what's interesting about this shot?
For sure.
You know what's interesting about this shot, Max? That's pretty rare for somebody in this position. Is Morgan can hit this as hard as she wants, because there literally is nothing. There's nothing that happens if she finishes 5th or 8th or 12th.
I didn't think that is awesome. Man, that was a great chip. Unbelievable turn of events. Yeah, I mean, that's wind out of your sail. You think you're going to, again, it goes back to Phil's thing last week, but you think you're going to have a putt to win or tie or get into a playoff at the U.S. Open, and now you don't.
Right. So I'm just going to give you some Birdie Kim, just some points. I mentioned, some stuff about her and what she did coming in. Obviously you see the champ there. She was the third woman from South Korea to win a major, second woman from South Korea to win a U.S. Women's Open, Terry Pak and Grace Park win the majors, and Pak won the Women's Open. It was her only career LPGA victory, Max. This right here, and it was her only career top 15 finish in a major. Was this Women's Open, and this was just her second career top 10 finish in any LPGA event at all. So when you talk about the shocking, surprising victories, and I mean, you think of guys like Sean McKeel and the Bob May battle, and you get Rich Beam winning the PGA. I mean, this eclipses all of that stuff, because this was really a player that nobody had on any radar. They came in and won major.
I mean, you look at it. Beam won a bunch on tour. Bob May probably, had he won, that would have maybe been a little similar just because of who he played against. But yeah, Birdie never winning again. I guess it's a little, it's shocking, but that's the cool part about this game. You can take, you can, take it at the moment you're given that opportunity. It's awesome.
I don't want to, recap the whole Tin Cup speech about why the U.S. Open is so great and why it's open for everybody, but yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. The U.S. Open allows anybody a chance, a dream. I mean, it's why I do it, right? I mean, I do it every year. Is I try to go through the process of getting to the next stage of qualifying. And I mean, am I good enough to play in a U.S. Open or compete in one? No, but the dream is there. If I have a couple of good days, it's all it needs, right?
Yeah, that's the best. That's why I think everybody enjoys it. Watching it the most, it is very difficult, and the actual setup is hard. But like Morgan said, every year, both on the men's and women's side, you see new people emerge. You see your future stars from college emerge. You see 12-year-olds play. You see 15-year-olds play. You see 17-year-olds almost win the tournament. Like, it's the only event that will really happen in consistently. And that's cool. You also get the club pro, from maybe your hometown, or maybe you just watch them win the PGA of America battle. Just such a wild event that it has such a pedigree, such a high standing in the game of golf, and so many people that you have never heard of will both play in it and have the opportunity to win it.
As we kind of wind down, just another thanks to Cisco. They've done an unbelievable job in responding to the global crisis that's going on right now. They pledged $225 million in product, cash, services to aid in COVID-19 relief efforts. And they're awesome. Follow them on Cisco, at WebEx. And shout out to the USGA, who is providing us this unbelievable footage of these events and these championships, as we see our 2005 U.S. Open winner there, Birdie Kim. They've got 250 hours. That's like so many minutes. It's
15,000 minutes, if you guys are wondering.
We can't even do the math. No, the math, it's too advanced math for us. But I mean,
it's like calculus.
Yeah, it's the 250 hours on demand programming. And as you see there, they're another finish, one of their dozen classic finishes series, features some of the most dramatic conclusions in recent U.S. Open history, U.S. Women's Open history. You can check all of these things out on the USGA streaming app. That's available for free. It doesn't cost you anything, not even
free,
$1.
Shane?
It's free, buddy. On Amazon Fire TV, free. You know where else it's free? Roku. Free. Guess what? Apple TV costs you nothing. I got a piggy bank right here. Nothing. Need none of this change. You can hear how much money I have in this.
Can I have it? It sounds full. I'll take it.
Okay, I'll give it to you. That can be yours. That's yours. There's 15,000 pennies in that thing, which equates to so many dollars.
Minutes as the USGA has hours of footage.
I wanted your just final thoughts on 05.
Super high quality golf. I felt like last week's Winged Foot, obviously the golf course are, but not the highest quality of golf. I didn't think we saw a ton of great shots, which is the opposite of the prior one at Pumpkin Ridge that had a ton of quality shots. I thought this one, I didn't see a lot of, I saw a lot of great shots, great struck shots. The golf course just seemed to be beating everybody. It was so firm. Pins were just impossible to get to, minus maybe 16. I feel for Morgan. I feel, like I said before, you just want that putt. You're walking up that hole in such a high and you're so laser focused on what you're doing. And you're like, man, I'm going to have a putt to win the U.S. Open. I don't care if you're 17. I don't care if you're 12. I don't care if you're 45. Like, everyone wants that first time or anytime you want that shot at it. And it does feel like it got ripped from her. But at the same time, I don't know if it's because Birdie doesn't go on to be incredibly famous, but there's not enough was said about how amazing she played. Like I said multiple times, she made 3 very smart moves, made par from one of them, and makes an unbelievable bunker shot on 18 to win the thing. She makes very few mistakes. She hit it great. She putted great. She did everything awesome. Her chip on 16 or 15 was tremendous. So she needs a little more credit. Obviously, Morgan did get robbed, and we are friends with her. I feel for her, but Birdie took it, and she did a phenomenal job in the last 9 holes.
Yeah, the walk-off shot. I mean, when you talk about a walk-off shot, I mean, there's putts, obviously. We've seen putts, you've seen fist pumps and big, long putts and all of those things that have happened in the history of golf. It doesn't happen a lot to win a major and to win, a U.S. Open. But, like, walk-off golf shots is a very short list in major championship lore. And, Birdie Kim will forever be there as somebody that had a walk-off in golf. We walk off on your baseball hat team all the time, but it doesn't happen much in this sport, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool to see the golf course again. When you, like you mentioned, when you get the weather perfect and the conditions can just be locked in as much as the USGA wants them to be. It's fun to see some shot making, a lot of short game finesse shots. You see kind of everything through a player's bag, and you usually get the winner with who's controlling it the best and controlling their emotions the best. And I think that obviously between the battle, either of them could have won. The ball just finally went in, for Birdie.
Do you think I will shave this first, or you'll cut the thing that you won't show? I can see your hair.
Well, I'm going to trim up my neck because
you're going to trim the mullet.
But I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it flowing a little bit.
Okay.
Roughly. Yeah.
Good for the win. Always good to know where the win's coming. Max, appreciate it. That's another regripped in the books. I thought you did a great job.
I thought you did a great job, man.
Thanks, Justin Ray, 15th Club. Follow Justin Ray on Twitter. Great information all the time. And we thank the USGA and Cisco. We'll be back next week. We have the 2013 U.S. Open. You know what Max is going to do? He's going to tell us about Marion, and he's going to tell us about that U.S. Open. Because, oh, by the way, the fella on your screen played in that U.S. Open.
2 whole rounds of it. 5 if you count the practice rounds. So, yeah. Also, I want to say again, shout out, happy birthday to my mom. Happy Mother's Day tomorrow to all the lovely mothers out there. Continue to please wash your hands. And yeah, thanks to Cisco, thanks to USGA, thanks to Shane, thanks to everybody helping us put this on. We very much appreciate it. And I hope everybody joins next week.
And Jason, shout out. Behind the scenes, crushing it. Kayla, shout out. Behind the scenes, crushing it. You see our faces. You don't see everybody behind the scenes that do an unbelievable job. This isn't just 2 people with a computer. This is
that's why it actually looks good. If it was just us 2, we wouldn't have figured out how to get this onto the computer.
It was ugly.
Yeah, we went through
tried that. Until next week, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye.